What's up, YouTube? Court Campbell, Coding Mitta. Welcome to Coding Mitta. So we're working on tagging today, and what's going on here? Oh, okay. Searching for stuff. So we're down here at the bottom of the page. Finally, I woke up this morning thinking about, oh my gosh, I might be finished today with tagging, and what that means is the API page, which is here if you go to mitta.us and you click on the API link up here at the top, these APIs will be done. And so it's interesting, I was thinking about this this page this morning, and it's kind of funny because this page is not completely accurate. I haven't been completely honest with everybody about what I'm doing. And so it will do some of this. It will end up doing a lot of this stuff. In fact, like the web, SMS, and Slack stuff is going to be definitely part of the product. But the reality is the product itself has not yet really been made obvious. And I've kind of been hedging around about what it is, and I've been touching on it just on and off, but it's essentially a brain for machine learning software. So if we think about how our minds work, we use our minds to think. That's a lot of times what we do when we're using our mind, is we're thinking about things, but and not everyone, but there are a significant amount of people that when they think about things, they see things in mind, they see things out of mind, so stuff that's seen by the eye sensors, but there's also sensors in the brain that can synthesize scenes and see those. It can do that with audio, it can do that with taste, with smell, with touch. Did I hit all of them? So we've got 5 senses: eyes, ears, touch. Now the body the touch, I mean, we say 5 senses, but the touch in our body, it's hunger. I mean, if we feel something moving around inside of us, maybe our stomach is growling or something like that, or our intestines are moving around, we can feel that. Or if we feel maybe a tendon moving in our body or something like that. So we have sort of a 3-dimensional idea of our body, and those can include things like feeling sleepy, for example, can be sort of a body sensation. But when we talk about translating it to the internet or to computers, we really only come down to like a couple of senses that we have access to. We can hear things from the computer, and we can see things from the computer, and we can't really touch things in the internet or smell them or taste them, at least not yet. And so if we are thinking about like how do we process things, how do we once we come into contact with something or we see something, what is the impression that we get when we look at these things? And if we were just to take a simple example here, let's just look at the Mona Lisa. When we look at the Mona Lisa with our eyes, if we were to stare at her face, just like, let's say we're staring at the tip of her nose here. If we hold our gaze on the tip of her nose, the data that comes in from here up, so like basically from her nose upwards, and that's kind of distracting, so I'm going to move that off, and just kind of imagine me waving my hand across her face here. But across the tip of her nose, everything that is above her nose, if we're looking at the end of her nose, is all processed by one part of our brain that the stuff that's below her nose is not being processed by, and vice versa. And then the same thing is true of everything to the left of her nose is being processed by some parts of her brain. In fact, that gets split up and rerouted into both hemispheres. And everything to the right is also split up and rerouted into both hemispheres. So it was probably about a month ago. It was night, and I was talking on the phone, and I happened to be staring out the windows of my apartment at Oakland. I have this killer view of Oakland. And I was staring out at some lights, and I got an ocular migraine, and I haven't had one in years. And what happened was, it was this bottom right, if I were to map on me, it was this bottom left corner of my vision, or square, this area down here, became very jumbled. I couldn't see anything there, but my vision sort of wrapped around itself so that I couldn't notice that I couldn't see things there. But if I looked directly at something, I could tell that bottom corner was just gone. It was knocked out. And that means that part of my brain was probably having a migraine. And that's not an uncommon thing for people to have. Ocular migraines are pretty common, especially if you stare at lights and you've been working a lot, or you're stressed out or something like that. And it just serves to illustrate that our minds, our awareness, is built out of processes that we're mostly unaware of. We don't really think about those processes as they're occurring. In other words, you're not thinking about, stuff up here is being routed to this part of your brain, and down here, you just see a scene. You see a model of the world that you're looking around in and observing. And so what is it that we actually are aware of? Well, we're aware of seeing something. We can say, well, yes, I'm seeing something, but the way that we phrase that or put it is usually in words or concepts, even to ourselves. Even if we're just sitting there looking at something, we're oftentimes thinking to ourselves. Maybe we're talking to ourselves, or maybe we're just thinking to ourselves, hey, that's a cat, or this is a picture of the Mona Lisa, or this is her hair, or look at those trees behind her, or is this water? Look, there's a bridge. I mean, I never knew there was a bridge in the Mona Lisa. I never noticed it until I zoomed in just now and just realized that's a bridge. But how do I know that's a bridge? Well, I can kind of tell these are trees. I can kind of tell this is water. That's sort of the shape of a bridge. I mean, one would assume there are bridges. Here's a road. So how do we segment those things? Well, the answer is we probably segment those things just like machine learning models do. When we go to Google and we're using this model, I say go to Google. When we use something like Google Vision has been trained on different types of objects. So it knows doors. Now, who knows why I didn't pick up this door? Probably because I had this in front of it. But see, it's picking up this bicycle wheel. So it didn't really do anything much different than what I did when I was looking at the picture of the Mona Lisa. It knew that was a bicycle wheel. My brain just happens to know that this is a picture of a bridge, or a painting of a bridge. And the knowledge of that comes from our neural networks that are in our minds. And if we are to talk to another neural network, then it's going to do the same thing. It's going to say this is a bicycle or whatever, or this is a bridge. So what do we do with that information once we get it? Well, a lot of times in machine learning applications, something like this might only be valuable to maybe a robot. Hey robot, go over there and find the bicycle. Or hey robot, find the door and go to the door. So what the robot would do when it goes to the door is it would try to make the door bigger. It would try to move toward the door. And that's a simplistic example of that, but it needs to know this is a door. Now, it doesn't know language. I mean, it knows language in as much as it's been trained to know language. If it's carrying, for example, the GPT-3 model, then it could take the word door and it could say a bunch of things that make it seem like it understands what a door is. To you, it seems like it's a door. And in philosophy, there's this idea of a philosophical zombie. And that's something that is not necessarily aware of what something is or aware of the experience of a door, but it can talk about a door. And it depends on how you approach philosophy, if you even think about philosophy at all. I think it's important to think about philosophy when we're talking about artificial intelligence, especially artificial general intelligence. But the idea that a robot might just be manipulating data, it's very easy to think that that's how a robot works. And then for humans, it's very easy to think that we're just aware it's a door and we don't really question how we're aware of it being a door. It's just part of being human. is that we know that's a door and we can continue talking about it like a door, and we can unconsciously walk through it without thinking about it. And so what I started thinking about a few years back was when these machine learning models are gathering information using these processes that are similar to the ones that we have, these automatic processes that bust up our scenes and maybe even give us the idea something is a bridge. When I saw that bridge, and I didn't pick that out, it was not a contrived example necessarily, but when I picked it out just a second ago, I didn't really think, what is that? I didn't even think, like, oh, there's a blob down there. Is that a, I didn't start querying, well, what is that thing down there? I just glanced over it, and then my mind brought to mind the idea or the word bridge, and then I said it and began talking about it. So if we were to think about building a thing that does that for computers, that we're going to need to be able to put this information somewhere that the computer can then go back and retrieve and remember, if you will, like a memory, remember those words and the things that were associated with those words or those objects, the words that represent the objects that it was seeing at the time. And that is sort of what I'm building here with Mitta. I haven't gotten there completely, but we're getting close. But then the idea is well, what can we use it for? What's the niche market we're going to go after? It's great if you build a product, but if you don't have a market to go after, then you're not going to make any money, number one. And number two, if people don't use it, how do you know how to improve it? In other words, what's the direction that you take the product if no one's using it? If it's just an idea you have in your head about something, then what do you do with it? And that's the essence of a startup. Startups launch all the time with one idea in mind, and they pivot to another idea that then comes about because of exploring the original idea. And oftentimes those pivots are done to make money, to make revenue. But many times the revenue just comes along for free because the application was so huge. And we talked about that the other day in one of the videos, like cars, for example. I didn't know this, but when I was reading about it while we were looking at it online, it was a Hacker News article I think somebody posted about niche markets. And it was that cars were adopted by farmers first. And the reason why is because they lived out in the rural countryside, and it made it easy for them to live a city life. And so they started buying cars up. Even though they were the ones that had lots of horses and cows and animals, they realized the value of the car very early on. And then that spread throughout the population. That idea of being able to use a car to gain wider access to the world became a mainstream idea that's now spread around the world. So in this case, it may be that what I'm creating ends up being just a fancy bookmarking site. It may be that it ends up being something that's a supplement for researchers to save the things that they find as they're crawling around on Google looking for things that are interesting to them, and being able to save it and then have the system work and extract additional information out of the stuff that they're saving above and beyond what Google is doing naturally. And you have to keep in mind Google's objectives are to make money from advertising. They want to help you find things too, but they have to balance that between those two. So they have to be able to show you ads that generate them revenue, boatloads of revenue, and they have to give you stuff that actually allows you the results, stuff being the results that actually allow them to find the things that they're looking for, that their customers are looking for, or users are looking for. We're really not Google's customers, we're their users. So in this case, it may be that what we're really building here is some sort of memory system by using Solr, a search engine, running on top of images, which include web pages. It gives it a type of memory that it can recall what it has seen before, and that would be a powerful thing to many people in the industry, to just be able to have a system that is able to tie into vision systems, different machine learning systems, and search all together, and have the user involved in the process. Have the actual human involved in the process of building up the the data set on which they are interested may give us a way to be able to give machines a way to see the world like we do. All right, so that kind of gives you an idea of where we're going to be going in the next 78 episodes. So I'm going to try to hit 100 episodes in this series. That's my objective. By the time we hit episode 100, I'll probably be pretty much done doing this. It's a lot of work, and it's sometimes scary when I get on here. I don't know. I don't always practice what I'm going to say, but this morning I got up and thought about it, and I kind of put a little intent to it. So hopefully that'll help you understand a little bit better about what we're working on here is a memory system for vision systems. But before we run, we must walk. And before we walk, we must crawl. And so we're crawling, and we're now just barely able to see. So that's where we're going to flip over now, and we're just going to just dive right back into the problem that we were having yesterday, which is I'm getting no data back. So I think this is actually the query that I was running. And so let me take out this print statement, because the blob says, this blob that I'm operating on is this bucket blob. But then the thing is that we're actually building our own blob URI here. And then we're giving that blob URI to this thing. So I'm kind of interested in like, what is this thing doing? Blob source. What I need is the length of this. I'm not getting anything back. At least I'm not getting any data back from Google. I have no idea why. So we're gonna try to figure it out. Alrighty. Run this again. See if we have some length on this thing. Image has no length. Well, alright. Is this actually a thing? Am I? Yeah, I mean that's the right usage. So it has no length. Well, I guess we knew that because it's not getting it. So I have this code here that I've been using for serving up. So this serves up the files. So if we were to go look at, let's do a search. Oh, I figured out what's causing this. So if I hit Shift Enter, it'll do a carriage return, and then I hit Enter again, and then it gives me an error. So what's happening is I'm hitting Shift, and then I'm hitting Enter before I let go of the Shift key. But if I do it like that, it works fine. Huh. Wonder what happened here. That's weird. That should be working actually. Not found. Did I delete it? Well, I'm not going to linger on that. That shouldn't be gone, but I guess it can happen. We probably need to detect that Google's not giving us the image. Let's open this one. So this is something I imaged yesterday. So if we look at this, we have a /d, then we have the spool, and then the name of the file, which are both basically hashes. You then have to be authenticated. So you have to have the cookies here to see this. So let me illustrate here. So I'm gonna log out, and I'm gonna refresh this page. And you can see it wants me to log in. So those images are fully authenticated. Only you can see those, and that's by design. Now there is a way to give someone your key, and I don't think that's working yet, but there should be a way that you can share it a little bit, but not with everybody. So 699,397. And we're blocking. All right, so there's the image. So clearly we have access to the image here. So let's go through how we're doing this. So we're using the storage client from Google. So this is done in Python by including this storage from Google Cloud import storage. And this Python is being run locally in a Flask deployment, but I also have the Google Cloud SDK installed, which is why I can do that import. So without that import succeeding, we wouldn't be able to do any of this. It also uses the credentials.json file here, and it'll read that automatically. And then Google has given me a copy of that file, and then the local install runs it, and that's how it's able to communicate to Google Cloud. So there's a couple of different services that I use on Google. I'm not controlling Google Compute Engine yet from the application. The application runs on AppEngine. So this entire app is deployed to AppEngine. It uses storage for storing the images in spools. So it creates subdirectories called spools that it then puts the files into the spools. It uses the data store, NoSQL data store that Google provides, and then we're now implementing Google Vision, and we use the data store by the NDB client. So here's the NDB client being created, and then down here we're creating the Google storage client, so we can talk to storage. So this is how we're getting access to storage. It's reading these credentials, and then we're starting the storage client, and then it's connecting to the bucket. In the case of tag, let me close some of these other things out real quick, just so we can focus on the problem. We're going to hopefully come back to upload today. We'll see if we get done with this or not. We may run into a whole hairball of problems. Here, what we're doing is we're setting that same thing up here. Let me do this. 2 columns. Make this a little bit bigger. And then let's pull this over here so we can reference it. And we'll shrink it down just a little bit because we don't need to see the whole thing. So here's what we've got going on inside of what we know is working. So this is this thing. So we're serving up the image here with this code right here. So if let's just walk through this real quick so we understand it. So we have a route which is being served here on /d. It extracts the spool name and the file name as variables. It then looks up the spool by the current logged in user. So this provides an ACL type access to the image. And it passes in, using Flask login, it passes in the user ID and the spool name. If there isn't a spool, it'll give us a 404. So if we change that spool ID there and reload the page, then it'll give us a 404 here and say the document's not found. But then if that passes this check, then it'll jump into a try statement, and it'll try to create a Google storage client connection, which just uses this authentication credentials automatically. And then the bucket is created using the GS bucket method, and we pass it the cloud storage bucket, which is just a variable in the config file, which I'm not going to open. And then we then connect to the blob, which is then the spool name and the file name. And the blobs are just, you can call them whatever you want, but if they have a slash in them, then it'll actually create a directory-like structure. It's kind of like AWS's S3 service. And then what are we doing here? We create an object called a buffer, which is an bytes IO buffer. And then we download the file into the, using the buffer, we download the file into the buffer using this blob download the file, and then we seek to the beginning of the file, and then we send the file over the wire. And that's how we do it. So at this point, this is a file handle, from what I understand from the documentation when I wrote this. This is a file handle, so it's just like a file on file system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this, because I don't like this part right here. See, this, like in the docs or in the instructions that I found on Google, they were saying they put this in there, but then they didn't end up using it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to go back to this methodology. So I want to take out all of this part, like here. I want to print the file name just to make sure that I am getting a file name. So at this point, we should have a file handle in buffer. And then blob source equals vision image source, vision image source, blob. All right, so at this point we should be detecting the text in the image here. So let's go take a gander at Google here. We want to go into the optical character recognition text and images function. We've defined this in the models, the aptly or inaptly named models. We have another models down here, which is our NoSQL models, so not named necessarily the best here, but I'll go back through after I get done with the APIs and do a slight code cleanup, and I might do a stream on that actually, just cleaning up the code, just making sure all the naming stuff is right. I'm switching back and forth between spool ID and spool name, and I do that with a couple of different things. So we'll try to figure that out and see if it's a problem. I didn't actually check my stream audio. I think it's probably fine, but I'm gonna check it anyway, just real quick. Yeah, I sound fine. Okay. So let's take a look at this, see what we've got here. We've got some code examples. So here's some detect text. Detects text in the file. So there's that IO open. And then it's saying image file read. And that should be the same as this. So content and buffer and content should be the same thing here, I think. I don't know why that says content equals content. Well, let's try it and see what happens. That's the best thing to do when you're coding, is you just got to go for it. So I don't think we want this. So what we want is an image equals vision.image. I'm copying from here. And then content equals, I'm assuming that I need to pass it in, that image takes a content buffer, like that. Now if we look over here, we're saying a send file, but this is a Flask method over here. So we're passing in the file handle. So let's go take a look at a Flask send file example. Here it is right here. So file name or FP, which would be file pointer, or like a handle for it. And we're sending a buffer here, so that's a file pointer. And then if we look at this, we're seeing this is an image file read with IO open path RB as image file read. So let's say IO, so we're going to say Python IO image file read. something like that. Working with streams. So we're looking for read. Here's read. Read up to size bytes from the objects and return them. So that's going to return. That's going to put into content the bytes. And I think the buffer download to file, blob download to file. Let's go look at what blob download to file does. Blob download to file, and then this is Google storage client. Well, there's one called download as bytes. Here's download to file. This says it's deprecated. Download the contents of the blob into a file-like object. Interesting. Well, I don't know. Let's try it and see what happens. It's probably going to blow up. That'd be my guess. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're posting a using curl to post to text vision, and we're posting a spool to it. So we're giving it a spool LXFGZ. That should be some spool that we have. I don't actually know what's in that spool, but it doesn't matter. Let's give it in anyway. There's something in it. So it says IO is not defined. Well, that's good news. Let's actually put this. Where is that over here? Here, import IO. So we'll put that there. Yeah. So it's saying type IO bytes IO, but expected one of bytes. Well, okay. So it wants bytes instead of bytes IO. Well, do I download the bytes? I'm just guessing. I have no idea. Has no attribute download the bytes. What was it called? And where was it? Send file. It was in the here. Download as bytes. Well, it says IO bytes, IO object has no attribute connection. Hostname equals client connection, API base URL path equals self. This is in Google Cloud Blob, so I have no idea what's going on there. So now we've reached the end. We've reached the end of my knowledge. So maybe we don't need to do a seek on it. Let's try that. Let's take out some code and see what happens. Do we get something? No, still not. Still no bueno. I feel like this other thing that we were doing was with the bucket, the GS bucket thing. I don't think that's going to work. And the reason I don't think it's going to work is because I don't think that we have permissions to connect to the storage client with the app using that methodology. I think we have to use, because we have this credentials.json file, we have to use this other method, which is to use the storage client like this. And when we Googled it yesterday, let's do that again now. So we want to use Google Vision image from storage bucket. And maybe IO bytes IO, maybe we can throw that in there. See if we have something in there. Storage, useful to add method to load object into bytes IO buffer. We use Google Cloud Storage to store Parquet files as our data processing. Code does the trick. So I don't have to do any of this. I don't even know what any of that means. Blob download the file name. Takes a file object versus the file name taken by blob download the file name. Git bucket, blob download the file, buffer. And that's what we had earlier. But then I don't know. So let's go look at, let's change this back to what it was. So it was this. Now I'm sure there's somebody that just could come in and look at this and go, oh, it's blah, 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 blah. And then you have the answer, right? But then I don't know the answer. So this is how I figure it out. This is how I do it every single day. I do stuff like this every single day. This is just, it's about learning, and sometimes I forget and I don't remember what it is. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want an example of Google Vision using a IO bytes, IO download to file. I want something like that. Example in Google Docs uses IO bytes, so it reads data into memory and doesn't save it on the disk. You have to save it. Okay. Here's some code. With IO open image file, RB is image file, content equals image file read. We had that earlier here, I think. I don't know that that's the same. I feel like it's maybe not. And then it says image vision image content equals content. Could we do a read on the buffer? So can we do something like this? I mean, it's a buffer, right? So, and where is image file? That's our buffer, right? So we just read something that said that basically this, download the file, here. Blob download the file does what you want. It takes a file object versus the file name taken by blob. Does what you want, blob file, yeah. Blob objects. No. Deprecated. Download the contents of this blob into a file-like object. Downloading a file that has been encrypted with a customer's plan. I don't want to do that. No, we're not encrypting it. Download the file name. And download the contents of this blob into a named file. I think that's going to write it out to the drive, I think. Well, we haven't found anything different. We're on the same damn page as we were earlier. Right here. This is the same page, I think. This is OCR. What's the difference? Document text tutorial. So we're on some tutorial. If we could get to here, we'd be good, but we're still here. We can't do any of this crap yet. Okay, so let's say buffer read. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just looking at this part right here and saying, do I put a read on it? Because the image file seems like as image file. This is a little weird, right? Saying image file, but whatever. Could I do an IO open on the buffer? I might be able to. Let's try this first and see what it does. I'm sure it's going to blow up. Yep. And the thing is the exceptions you get out of stuff like this is just ridiculous. So it says it's a type error. So it's an IO bytes object has a type IO bytes IO, but expected one of bytes. We could search for this. If I knew how to copy in here, let's see. Control insert. Checking my stream comments. TensorFlow expected one of bytes. That's kind of interesting. You need to feed bytes to bytes list instead of string. Following is an example of writer. This is old TensorFlow junk. I don't want that. This is like dealing with UTF-8 errors, image upload problem. Well, this is what we're trying to do there. Ah, it's a cute dog. Okay. Well, what do we decide we're going to do here? We're going to try to do this. Manifested a dog barking. So I think I want to do it here. Well, that's not going to work. Somebody could fix that. That'd be great. Off the internet, just like when you paste in, it just matches it. There's probably a way to do that. But okay, so with IO open image file, RB as image file. So what we're going to try to do here is we're going to do buffer. Buffer read image, and then content equals content. Like that. Okay, it says on line 68, so in this open, it says expected string bytes or OS path like object, not IO bytes IO. See, the blob download the file thing is the key here. I think we want to go back to I think that's in here, blob objects. I think we want, whatever we want is probably in here. What we're using is not working. Download is bytes. Client none, start none, raw download, blah, blah, blah. Download is bytes. But does that make this wrong? Maybe we just want to dump this. We want this to be the content. I don't know. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. I don't know how that would possibly work. That's not been defined. What does it say here? Download. Maybe we do something like this. Let's try that. Blob source is not defined. Wait, what line is that? 71. Oh. Huh. Did it work? Holy shit, it worked. Yes! Oh my, that is so fucking awesome. Oh my god. Look at that. It worked. Just like that. It's a miracle. Okay, let's talk about what we did to fix this. So one of the assumptions is we had this, block here, this thing right here. So we had a buffer that we had defined here. So let's actually try to understand this a little bit better, what this means here. So we created a what's called an io.bytes.io object. I actually don't know what this is. So it says here. So it says Python IO module allows us to manage the file-related input and output operations. Important classes are bytes IO, which is what we're using here, and string IO. The IO open method is preferable over OS open method for file-related options. Why? I wonder. So it says data can be kept in bytes as an in-memory buffer when we use the IO module's bytes IO operations. Well, so as we saw earlier, this thing vision image. Let's go look at vision image. Like that. Is this it? That says vision images. Doesn't look useful. Public image. So it says right here, image content represented as a stream of bytes. So not a bytes IO. So let's see if we can see bytes versus bytes IO. Probably want to stick Python on there. Here's a Stack Overflow. I'm trying to decide on the best internal interface using my code. I'm storing there are several areas of code, playing around. The benefit of bytes IO objects is that they implement a commonish interface commonly known as a file-like object. Bytes IO objects have an internal pointer whose position is returned by tel, and for every call to read, the pointer advances in bytes. So it acts like a file handle to the file system. So when you open a file handle with an open in Python, you're actually seeking across the disk, and that's, I think, what it's doing here is it's giving you a file-like object, whereas a bytes object is just a string of bytes. So what it appears to be, what we need to have done is we needed to have passed vision image, the image method, a string of bytes, a series of bytes. And by changing it to download bytes, we did that. Here, this send file operation that's in Flask appears to be able to handle using the buffer object, which is essentially like a file pointer to the file system for reading a file. It's just in memory here. So this thing, I was able to hack this together by doing that, but it's actually downloading it to a file-like object. Here, the image doesn't want that. It wants the full image. And before, when we were doing when we were given the example here, is this it? This isn't it. It's somewhere in here. I'm not gonna know. It's not in here. It was on another page. I don't want to go dig around and find it, but it was something like, I deleted the line, but it was essentially something like this. It was I think they had put an F on the front of that, and then it was like GS for Google Storage, I think, and then it had like the bucket name and something else, and then the file name in here. And then we were passing that into Google Vision using some sort of like loader for loading that URL. There's a way to, yeah, this one, is this it right here? Yeah, this is it. Source image, we were running something like that on it. And so this is the thing, this was failing, likely due to ACLs. So I didn't have permissions to get access to the GS type object. I have access to the buckets because they're using the storage client to get access to it. But I don't think I have support. You could probably do this if the bucket itself were open, but I have the buckets closed down. Well, let's go take a look at the buckets real quick just so you know what I'm talking about. So we go into the storage browser, and then we're going to get a list of the buckets that I have, and the one that we're currently using is Mitta Images v2, and then this is full of the spools. So in each one of these spool directories, you've got some files that are in here, and then you can click on these and you can actually look at them. So there's me imaging something. But this particular, the only reason I can see this is because I'm logged in the Google Cloud and I have access to it here. But if I were to try to use some public, like this right here, authenticated URL, if I copy this, and then I go into something like Edge where I'm not logged into Google Cloud and I paste this in, I'm not going to have access to it. I say that and then it gives it access to me. Am I logged in? I must be authenticated. Console Cloud, Google.com. Yeah, I'm logged in. So I'm logged in over here, so let me log out. And then let's paste that back in again. And then let's copy this. Copy link address. Why does it look weird like that? Copy to clipboard? Yeah, there we go. And it's asking me to log in. So it's saying you can't click at it. So it's sort of doing what Mitta was doing earlier when it was like, hey, you need to log in to look at this. I'm replicating that functionality. And I don't know that I'm doing it the best way because I'm serving it up off an endpoint here. But this was the way that I could implement the logins for ACLs for individual users, which you can do on Google. I just didn't want to mess around with adding the users to Google that way. Okay, so this is great. So I'm going to close down all this. And let's take a look at this code real quick. Let's take this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up. I think it'd be good to put this up on a GIF real quick. And I'm going to put, let's do this. So I'm going to select all this. This is tag.py, and then the description is example code for loading a file out of a Google Cloud bucket and sending it to Google Vision. There we go. Now keep in mind that if you were to come and use this, that you would need all of the Flask bits. I will eventually put all those up for people to use. And then we're going to go in here to our stream. And can we edit this in line? What's going on here, Google? I say Google, I mean, there we go. Hiding my button. There we go. And then I guess I'll post it into the stream, huh? Like so. So there's the code. Enjoy. Okay, so now what? Now we have the task of trying to parse all this. So what I really want to do is take a look at now I ought to figure out, let's see, my spool, the spool I've got, let's let's see here. Let me think about this. Let's print the spool description. And let's see if we have a description here when we run this. I need to get rid of this other stuff. Oh wait, there it was. Scientists have developed a new way to cure adhesives. Okay, good. So now we know which one it is. There's my daughter. I put her over there because sometimes I'll scroll over there in this file list, and well, that's more entertaining. So, she's a princess. She's tall now. That was quite a few years ago. Okay, so let's close that. That's our, yeah, this is it right here. So I guess we want to look for, I guess we're getting all of that text. I was thinking this morning about this, is like, if I could say, don't pull stuff over here, but only pull stuff over here. Like we have the position of those elements here. We see we have all of the position of all the words and everything. Let's go back to our example that Google is giving us, which we closed, of course. So Google Vision, and then it's Python OCR. Yeah, there we go. How long did that take us? Only an hour. That's so great. I'm so excited. This is going to be fantastic. Okay. So here we go. It says format text and description, vertices, bounds. What I'd really like to do is write it all into a file so I can look at it. Because it's monstrous. That's a lot of data. Print format text description. That's that way that people are doing things now, I guess, using that format function. String format. The format method. Formats. Yeah, I've used this before. Interesting. You'll notice I don't use that. I use the %sign stuff. I use this. It's easier for me to read. The problem with this format is you're sticking a format in there with all of your other stuff, so you're going to always see the word format in there. It's annoying. Here you don't, you just see what you're doing here. You can see what the layout looks like, and then you can see the objects that you're putting in there. I don't know the power of this versus the other. Let's see here. Well, I can try to stick it into a file. I could also try to select it out here, I guess. Seems a little unwieldy. And we've also got a limit on the buffer. So that's not going to be helpful at all. I think I'm going to write it into a file. So we're going to get to here. You know what might not be that way is this. So we could return JSON dumps texts. It's kind of like the crawler. It takes it a few seconds. JSON is not repeated composite. Object of type repeated composite is not JSON serializable. What is repeated composite? I guess it's one thing printing it, and another thing converting it to another format. Using Google. Oh, it's the same problem 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Who posted this? K. Go K. There's no way. Repeated comes from protobuf as far as I can see. So it's a protobuf problem? You can also go to dictionaries using something like protobuf 3 to dict. Are you serious? I could have sworn it was JSON that it put out. Oh, that is JSON. Can I just return? Maybe I'm just being silly and you can't dump that. Let's just return that. The view function did not return a valid response. The return type must be a string dict. This is coming from Flask, but as a repeated composite. What the fuck is a repeated composite? It's this thing I just searched for just a second ago, I think. Repeated composite. Canadian Goose? Well, repeated composite to JSON. I have no idea. How to serialize JSON or dict that responds from Vision API. Here we go. Can you provide a code snippet that provides the thing you'd like to serialize? Surprised that didn't fail on an import error. That's what I was kind of expecting. What does it say? It says repeated composite object has no attribute descriptor. Well, so that suggestion is just bunk. What is this thing? Oops. Okay, so It's this thing right here, right? Response text annotations. So let's see. Vision client. It's not exactly accurate. That's the variable name, right? No, it's not. Wait. Yeah, that's the vision client is coming from up here, right here, vision client right there. So this is this image annotator client. And then what are we returning? We're looking at the text detection. And then text annotations, JSON. The JSON includes, it says it's JSON. Vision API now supports asynchronous batch image annotation for all features. This asynchronous request supports up to 2,000 image files and returns response JSON files that are stored in your Google Cloud Storage bucket. So otherwise it's going to give us a, I want to leave that open. Is this how this is working? This is probably like the try it function is probably working that way. Let's do this. Let's see what happens. You know what? Yeah, that's what I thought. Putting spaces in there, Google. Bite me, Google. Ah, you guys are fine. I'm just giving you shit. Okay, so. Like that. Let's run that and see what happens. I'm gonna get a printout in here. Something doesn't match. Now we're getting something back. I guess that's all the text. That's kind of what I want. All right, let's concatenate all that and take a look at it. So we're going to do oh, you can tell I'm still thinking in Python 2. Thanks, Guido. Appreciate it. Hit me. Is that not? Can I not do that? Why can I not do that? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, well, all right. I'm silly. I thought you could do that for some reason. I'm just thinking in, I'm thinking in lists, I guess. How about that? Entity annotation in string? What? For text and oh, huh. Can't do that. Full text. Wasn't even paying attention. But we had another variable there. Dude, this takes about as long as a crawl. Look, bite me, Google. And where is the file? Are we printing it? No, we're not printing it. Oh, maybe it'll work this time. Maybe we just return it, huh? Instead of, hey. No, no, yes. That's so weird. How do you do that? So I select it and then what? Oh, interesting. So if it up, down, up, down, down, down. Interesting. Okay, whatever. So here we just want to do this. Huge move. Actually, I don't know how to select these windows from here. I don't know. Oh. Yes. So what does that mean, arg2? What did it say, arg2? That's it right there. Also, when the adhesive is sandwiched between insulating material like rubber or wood, retroviruses are rewriting the koala genome and causing cancer. No, that's not right. It does not need to be I have dissolved dry oligs in PBS. Production of oxygen in a submarine. Mixed with any hardener or accelerator, unlike component adhesives, which has two liquids that must be mixed for use, making it easy to manufacture. Well, less than ideal, but still somewhat interesting. Let's use it. So let's do this. Okay, so what do we need to do now? We need to return. What do we need to return in the spool here? So we have the spool. Let's return the spool. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is we're going to return the spool. Now, how do we do that in the other one? We actually have to format it. Let's look at the docs real quick. What do we say in the docs? Doesn't say. Show a list of machine learning models or scan a spool with a model to produce tags and other metadata, including new or updated documents. So a spool is a sort of a document. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to model it for now on a spool. So that's in the upload methods. Because you upload things to spools. How much time do we have left? I've got 45 minutes, so we're good on time. I want to move past this so we can work on the uploader a little bit. And the reason why is with the uploader, then the next episode we can actually do some tagging. So right now we're just extracting text, and so we'll have to, yeah, we want this right here. Like that. Like tag is going to basically, we're gonna have to improve this substantially, but for right now we're gonna hack this up like this. And this is gonna use spool. And in this case, the timestamp should be, do we have the timestamp in here? We need our timestamp stuff. Okay, so there's the time stuff. Then we have the spool. So timestamp, this is spool created, this is probably timestamp, but I'm just going to do this for now. This is so we'll just print out a spool from here. This is spool tags, and this is spool file names. So at this point we should have, let's put text in here. And we should have that. Full text should be in there. If it isn't, then it's too bad. It'll error for now, because we're gonna have to fix all this. And then we're gonna return the response. Okay, and then in the spool, that should solve our other problem that we're having. Spool. And the other problem defined was that we were getting stuff in the description coming back, like when we were crawling and stuff, that was not escaped. So if somebody had quotes in their title or description on the page, it was breaking. We'll have to fix that later. We have a ticket for it, so we'll fix it later. Okay, I think this should work. Maybe. Let's see what happens. Huh. Oops. No error here. Had an error. Pog. Right there, Pog. Sweet. I think this worked. Question is it valid JSON? So let's check it out. This is where we wanted it, wasn't it? Oh wow. Well, that was from earlier. I won't get too excited. Okay. So Control Insert to copy, and then we're going to go over here and validate this JSON. Bam! It's valid JSON. What? That's amazing. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's great. Can we index it? Please. Please, let's index it. I've been waiting for this this moment for years. Okay. So let's think about this. So in order to index this while we're doing this, let's think about this. I have to have the image in there already, but what I could do is I could kind of fake it. So what I could do, like, I'm going to index Hacker News. So I'm going to go to the grub command, and then this is a timeout for post a document to the index API. So I don't want to do that until, you know what? I could actually do that. What I want to do here first before I index it is well, you know what I could do? I could test it first. So I could test it and then I could index it. And let's see here. Let me go to my docs. Yeah, here. So I could create, I can send it a spool directly, I believe. I can send it this. And then it's going to take this full text and it's going to stick it in there. So let's do that. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to rerun this command, and then we're going to redirect this into a file. And we're in static already. So this is going to be full text example JSON. Okay. All right, let's go take a look at this. This should be in here. Doesn't look promising. Is there a comma missing on the end of this? No, it's there. Why is that? Why does it look like that? I don't know why it looks like that. Let's select all this and let's paste it in here and make sure it's valid JSON. So this is valid. Okay, so now we should be able to take this full text example and submit it to the index. So let's see if we can find our and what index are we, our sidekick, are we talking to here? It's still scanty, I think. Yeah, scanty taupe deer. So same one, and then we've got, this is a delete. This is it right here. Scanty taupe deer. So we're posting. We're doing a post application JSON. The data file is full text example, like that. It says it indexed it. Let's go look. Let's see. We should be able to search it. Actually, we can do this. And then we need a word from the full text. So we have latest. I don't know if it's going to pull that one out because there's a... Well, that's kind of unfortunate that it's put all these carriage returns on here. That sucks. We're going to have to fix that. December? What is going on here? Yes! So that means it worked. I don't think, like if we search for education, I don't think that'll work. It does work. How about Wharton? Man, it's fucking awesome. So we have full text indexing running now. I mean, we had to, like, we can't do it from here yet. But we will be able to. We'll be able to do it from here. I mean, I could spend. Let's see. What do we got going on here? We've got 30 minutes left. What I could do is I could end the stream now, and then I could do some prep work. So we could make this a short stream because we've got this working more or less. It's working as far as the APIs are concerned. It's working for the command, the grub command. It's not working, but. Maybe we could do another one. Let's do Hacker News. Let's just do that, and we'll just do it manually, just like we did it here. So let's start out with a new index. So let's clear our screen. Let's do a new sidekick, and let's create a new one. So we got Ready Green Emu. I love that. That's great. All right, Ready Green Emu, here we go. Okay, so we're gonna do grub and news.ycombinator.com/news. So this will be the Hacker News page. Why? Why is this not working? What does it say? Something is not JSON serializable. Did I change something? Come on. Really? It says line 152 in crawl, file names equals JSON dumps file name. File names. I didn't change anything in there. Line 152 in crawl. It's the end, isn't it? It's, oh, this thing. Why is that an error? News.google.com. Object of type undefined is not JSON serializable. Well, I guess we'll do some troubleshooting. We're not doing it during the stream, so I'm not going to end it now. I'm not going to leave you all hanging. So it says file names. It didn't. Did I mess with that? I didn't mess with it, did I? Oh, you know what? I did mess with it, and the reason I messed with it is because it's here. I messed with the template. Spool. Here. I guess it wants full text, right? Can we take this out? And it'll work. That works. I mean, it's not gonna find that. Let's try this one. Is it broken? Oh, it's blocking. There we go. So I think we just need full text here. So that's going to be in the upload. It's so awesome. I just, woo! Okay, so here, file names, dumps file names. I have a bunch of these render templates in here. So it's only spool. It's in here more than a few times. What I could do, here's what I'm going to do. Instead of, in lieu of changing all of this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this and create a new file, and I'm going to call this spool tag.json. Like that, tagged. Like that. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to paste this in here, and I'm going to save this. Yeah, that looks good. And then I'm going to go down into tag, and I'm going to change this to spool tag. And that way we're not colliding. Okay, now we need to get rid of this guy. So switch back to Scanty Tote Deer. Actually, I kind of like Ready Green Emu's name. Let's go look at the actual index. It's gonna make me log in again. No. Okay. Oh, whatever. I'm not gonna waste time doing that. It's so silly. Okay, so doesn't matter what his name is. We're deleting you, buddy. See you later, Emu. So we're gonna switch to Chewy White Robin, and then we're gonna kill Ready Green Emu, and then we're gonna create a new one. Trippy Beastry Rat. What does that mean? I don't even know what that word is. Brownish yellow pigment made from the soot of burnt wood. Okay. Alright, little rat. Trippy Rat. Alright, Trippy Rat. You're the man. Alright, so let's go in here and let's have you index Hacker News. Like so. Did I go back in there and save it? Is this a joke? I did, didn't I? Okay, let's try that again. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So now at this point we can search Hacker News by title, like so, like that. And we even get the image back, which is great. So now what we're gonna do is we need that spool. So the way we're gonna get the spool ID, what's going on there? Oh, it submitted it, so it's got two images now. That's kind of interesting. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna grab the spool just from the image, just for now. I mean, like later we can have the UI handle that, but whatever, doesn't matter. And then we're gonna go over, we're gonna run this command, the vision command, to the full text example JSON file, and we're going to pass the spool ID in right here. So what this says is, it says do a post. If we look at the docs real quick, here, so we're doing a post here, this post. And keep in mind that we have the token just defined in here like that. I'll flip this around so it's not that way on the example. But we're doing the post. Actually, we've got the whole thing in there. Technically, we should be putting, I guess I'm extracting the spool ID there. Whatever. I mean, technically, you should put it in like this -D to make it a little bit more readable. But let's look at that real quick at the tags. I think I probably coded that weird. Yeah, I'm doing a request args get instead of a request post or a request form get. A form get would be from inside of the posted data. Doesn't matter. In this case, it's still going to work. Well, I need to clean that code up a little bit, but whatever. And even possibly, I don't know. It always seems like for something to be RESTful, it probably shouldn't be in here as a parameter in here. Although I like putting the token in there just because it becomes part of the URL in general. It becomes part of the URL, it kind of fades away. So you're like, that's my URL I do a query to. It has my token on it. And then you have your parameters and the -d thing. But anyway, that's not what we're doing here. Okay, so we're sending over that spool. It's going to grab the first image from the spool, and then it should put it in full text example. And so we're going to go in here and look in full text example here. And then we have Hacker News. And there's all the text in there. Now let's go to Hacker News here. And let's just search for something. Terrain. So that's what we're going to search for, is terrain. So search, and then we've got to do full text, and then terrain, like that. And it's not seeing any matches that match that. Let's see here. Let's go to Hacker News and look. Oh, well, there's nothing on here. So I was looking at the wrong one, I guess. So let's look for CUDA. I don't see any of those either. Do we have CUDA in here? We don't have CUDA in here. We have Gridcoin. How about industrial? Not seeing any matches. Well, I can't be guaranteed. Is this the one that it's looking at? I think this spool probably has two. Our demo's failing. I think this spool probably has two. Let's actually go look at the objects. The entities. And then let's look at the spool. Well, that's not going to help as much, is it? Because we can't decode those. Let's go look at the storage. So the spool that we're looking for is 5AG, capital G, 5A, lowercase a, G. So I think we can sort these now. Yeah, we can. Thank you, Google. I was just kidding about you sucking earlier. You don't suck. 5A, this one right here. Oh, we've got a whole bunch. So what it's doing is it's grabbing this one. So we really need to search for stuff that's in here. So I need to fix that dedupe problem because it's got a whole bunch of different copies of it. So this says Coinbase. So let's search for Coinbase. I'm thinking that works. I'm hoping it works. I'm not seeing anything matches that. Well, we know comments are in there, so let's see if comments works. Oh, I'm an idiot. Did I index it? I haven't indexed it. I've just stuck it into the full text document. I'm such an idiot. Okay, so we know that when we index it, it's going to be this one right here. We need to go on. Well, let's go and actually look at this. Let's open this image in a new tab. So this is the one we're dealing with. So we should be able to search for anything in here, which includes Muse. So this should be the current one, I think. Let's look at Hacker News. It's not. It's not. That's not the one. So we're grabbing the first image. So this is from it being imaged a couple of days ago, but now let's actually go index it. Now that I'm just silly. So I need to run this to index it. So we're giving it a file to index, and we're inserting it into scanty tope dir here, but we need to actually put it in the right index. So we're going to do this. Keeping in mind that when we index here with grub, or when we crawl with grub here, when we did it earlier, it actually put it into trippy beastry rat. earlier. So we have a copy. If we were to do it just a regular search like this, no, like this, then we actually have a copy of that. This is going to be the first, I believe, the first image of it should be. I think that might be the one that we're searching. Is that the same one? No, it's not the same one. All right, just keep in mind that our images are out of sync with that. Now we're going to go index it. And we need to put in trippy B-I-S-T-R-E wrap, like that. And now we're going to index it. Now it's been indexed. Now we can search it. I'm so silly. I got all excited and then I'm like, okay. It's not seeing anything. That's not great. It should be this one. Framework. What if I just search for everything? Did it give me anything then? No, it's not seeing any documents. Why not? Because I did the wrong request. So I put rate instead of rat. So that right there needs to be fixed for sure. Now it's been indexed. Now we should be able to search it. Now we can search it. Now we can search for comments. Yes. And then what else can we search for? We should be able to search for anything that's in here. So let's search for AppEngine. This one right here. So I'm just looking for a unique word right here. So L, where did it go? Back on that. It's not working. World? That works. Did I spell her name wrong? Alexandra. A-L-E-X-A-N-D-R-A. Yeah, that's not it. AppEngine. That's not it. I wonder if I index the right one. How about HTML? So it's not even this image. It's not this page. I tell you what, let's do this. We'll go all like crazy on it. So we're going to delete the bucket. We're going to delete that spool. So the spool is 5AG. Just remember that. 5AG here. And then we're just going to delete that. Confirm. Oh. For Pete's sakes. Thanks, Google. 5AG right here. This one. Confirm. Confirm. I'm not typing it in right. What's wrong with it? Oh, slash. Dot star. What do you want, Google? You want that, I guess. Okay. And we're going to go back and we're going to delete it from the data store. Chewing up all our time. Spool. And then this is spool 5AG, this one right here. So then we're gonna select it and go away and we're gonna delete it. Confirm. Did that delete it? I have another Hacker News right here. Oh, it's the wrong one though. Yeah, go away. Delete. I'm going to delete the other one just in case. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to create another index. And we're going to get rid of, we got to get rid of one of these. We'll get rid of Chewy White Robin. And then we're going to create one. we've got Muzzy Coral Horse here. And then we're going to tell Muzzy Coral Horse to index grub. Sorry, we're telling it to crawl Hacker News. Thusly. Great. Now we need the spool. This is not going to give us the image. Shouldn't. It's going to come back and give us an error, I think. Refresh this, and I'm going to look for Hacker News. News, there it is right there. There's the spool. And it has a file name in it. Did it come back? Got too many of these open. I seriously have to fix that click event. Okay, search. Well, I think it has one in there, but we're going to tell it to index it again. Then it'll come back with the image. And in the meantime, we're going to go over here, and we're going to tell it to tag it. And then we're not going to forget to index. So that's going to tag it. And it did pick up the file name there. You can see the file name right there. Okie doke, there's our picture, so we're going to open that in a new tab. Let's close these down. And that one. Alright, and we've got this open, so we should be able to search for something in here. SolarWinds. Oh, the SolarWinds CEO blames intern for password leak. You know what? If you're the CEO of a company and you have this big a failure, it's your fucking fault, not the intern's fault. So don't blame an intern. It's worthless. Moreover, the board's at fault. It's the board's fault that everyone got hacked because of your ineptitude. So don't blame it on some intern. The intern is there to learn from you. Alright. End rant. Okay, so search. We can't do that yet because we gotta send it to the index. This is it. Except we gotta change the rat to our other one. The only rat is the SolarWinds CEO. Okay, so we're dealing with who are we dealing with here? Muzzy Coral Horse. Okay. Says it's been indexed. Cross your fingers, people. Okay. SolarWinds. Wham! And then intern? Yes. I'm so happy. Okay, that's it. It's working. Alright, people. If you like the channel, be sure and subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Follow me. I'm Port Campbell. There's no sense in having our own custom video channel yet because it's just me coding on this thing. And it's getting kind of exciting now. We have full text search running. We're able to crawl by imaging a URL. So we actually go and image that URL, and we then pass it off to Google, and they give us all the text on it, and then we can search for it. It's freaking awesome. I appreciate you being here, and you have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. I'll be back in another stream on Monday. Take care. And I think this is the end of the stream.